Today we'll be discussing my intentional observation for Module 2. We will start with classroom observation, the classroom setting and learning context. In this YouTube video, teacher Johnny Healy is filming in a TV studio to teach 10th grader students algebra. He incorporates a lot of games and challenges to entertain and engage his students, and he provides plenty of concrete examples that are student-friendly to teach algebra in a more accessible way. He's very good at performance art, using a lot of costumes and props, as well as projecting his voice and producing that energy that students need to want to be motivated for math. The demographics for this filming were there were approximately about 20 to 25 students. It was half girls to boys, various racial backgrounds. This took place in London, but the students were not from the same school, they were from different schools. And the objective was for students to be able to differentiate expressions and equations in algebra and in the real world. In the classroom observation, I noticed that he used a lot of materials. Mr. Healy uses a fruit stand to define variables, which is really interesting and fun. He also uses, the fruits he uses were bananas and oranges and apples. He also uses a coffee shop to help students see the real-world use of variables. So you can make the coffee in 5 seconds, and then they take 30 seconds to drink it. So how would you sustain a business if you make it that slow or make it that fast, and people drink it that slow or fast? He uses a devil costume to hook students into algebra because most people are scared of math, especially algebra, but he lets them know that it's actually more fun and aesthetically beautiful and magical. He uses a mixing bowl, kind of like a fish bowl, with plastic numbers, transparent numbers, as well as fruits to visually demonstrate the idea of like terms and combining like terms and not being able to combine bananas with numbers or oranges and apples when you're trying to combine. Also, the regular whiteboard, easel, pencil, and papers, and student whiteboards are also used, as is in the classroom. Some artistic strategies that Mr. Healy uses right away are questioning and investigating. He starts with the birthday game by giving students random steps or procedures in math, like adding, multiplying, doubling, halving. He says it really quickly, so it's hard to keep up. And then he guesses their birthday, it's hard to keep up for the students as well as myself. While I first watched it, I had to rewatch it a few times in order to get it. And then he comes back to it later. Mr. Healy also asks students a challenge question using numbers and fruits. And so he's basically trying to define variables for students in a real world way, or a way that's accessible for them because they're familiar with bananas and apples and oranges. But he also incorporates plastic transparent numbers so that they can see the difference between a variable and not. He also does a wonderful demonstration of consecutive numbers and mean, and median to show how to find the average as well as how to find the next unknown variable. And he again defines a variable using mean, median, and consecutive numbers. Also, he uses the artistic strategy of observing and describing when he constructs the mixing bowl example that I talked about before. He puts a banana in a bunch of numbers, and obviously the student can pick out the banana because he knows they're different from transparent numbers. But when he puts a 4 in a mixing bowl, there's other multiple 4s. He doesn't know the difference. So that's the idea of like terms and unlike terms. They don't go together, and that's how you combine them in algebra. The coffee shop example is a wonderful example and a business strategy that managers do use for in regular baristas throughout coffee cafes throughout the world. And it just goes to show that you can come up with anything in order to display math because it's everywhere. And a few other strategies are comparing and connecting. Mr. Healy brings the lesson back to the hook of the birthday example at the end of the lesson, and he actually shows the kids how to use algebra, or how he used algebra in order to figure out their birthdays within a few seconds. It was a really actually simple formula of just subtracting 205 from whatever number the students come up with, because it is the month is given in the beginning of the sum, and the day is given at the end. The teacher's also constantly checking for understanding and also making sure that the students are understanding that the focus is on the objective of learning algebra and expressions and equations by constantly emphasizing we can use, and the kids will answer algebra, or we can solve this by using, and the kids would answer algebra. It was a very pep rally-like um, environment. The last type of strategy was reasoning, where students explain their answers for the fruit stand example, as well as the mixing bowl example, and especially the coffee shop example and the birthday examples. The students are given plenty of time within 30 minutes to explain their own answers. They also get to show their work on their whiteboard or their personal pencils and papers for the birthday game. And then they also try to come up with, are given a challenge to figure out how the coffee shop can make more money after given the formula on the overall whiteboard in the coffee shop. How artistic strategies contribute to student learning? Well, there's a few. These are not. This is not an exclusive list, but it does provide a great hook or getting attention for students to want to learn, especially in this example because it's so over the top and literally a performance. Um, in real world classrooms, we don't have TV production budgets and costuming and props like this, but sometimes a lot of teachers do actually come in with their own props and costumes. It's not my style, but I do have the type of passion and energy and voice projection that Mr. Healy has, and the creative mind and imagination as well. Combining artful techniques like observation and reasoning, questions and comparisons to make connections from numbers, the real world, and math and algebra in this class. It also provides another entry point for learners of all styles to access math in a different way than a textbook. So while I was able to learn from a textbook and I actually enjoyed that, it did get very boring even for myself. So I can imagine students who do not learn well from a textbook um, can be given this other type of more performance style or artistic style option in order to learn. It also gives a visual or kinesthetic mode of learning to benefit all students. Some student examples from the lesson. So this first slide right here is the students working on the birthday example or that hook in order for them to figure out their number and him to guess their birthdays, which he does within 2 seconds for each student. It's amazing. And this one is the fruit stand where he's introducing the apples and oranges and bananas and comparing and defining variables before he gets into the crux or the objective of the lesson of differentiating equations and expressions in algebra. He wants to define a variable very clearly because that's a huge part of equations and expressions. The picture down here is the coffee shop that he sets up, and he originally starts with 4 seats, where it takes 5 seconds to make the coffee and 30 seconds to drink it, and they find out that that doesn't work. And then he asks them, well, what can we use to figure out what will work? And they, of course, yell out algebra. And they find out that the answer is 6 seats. So by the seventh time, 7 times 5 seconds is 35, then the that first person would have left, and that it'll be a continuous exit and entry. This last one is a student work of actually figuring out what the formula was for that original birthday example here. And that's what I love about like tying things up and closing loose ends in a math lesson. And that's a really great lesson is being able to go to the original hook and also tie it into the objective of writing expressions and equations in algebra for them to understand that they can solve things easier that way. I personally liked Healy's style. Like I said, this would have to be scaled way back for the classroom. I'd get rid of the performance and costumes myself, but I definitely would use an imaginative way of the coffee shop example, the fruit stand, and the birthday challenge. I could definitely bring in fruits since I like them and my students like to take them for nutritional purposes. I believe students need to think creatively and be engaged by games and fun challenges constantly to stay motivated. I'm that type of teacher. I like a type of organized chaos in the classroom. I do not think students need to be in rows, working on worksheets or going over homework at the beginning of class. It's an outdated classroom style that does not fit my personality either. I like the no textbook or worksheets present, but that paper and pencil and whiteboard and props did a better job of achieving student mastery. All of the students understood what Mr. Healy was teaching at the end of this lesson. I, of course, have included my reference for the YouTube video, Rubbish at Algebra, Take Johnny Math's Masterclass, as well as the Artful Thinking site, which I took a lot of these concepts for the artistic strategies from, the ideas. I really enjoyed this lesson, and I definitely will incorporate artistic type of creative strategies in my lesson planning to make my students more engaged, to make it more student-centered, and to really get them to mastery and want to find different avenues or access to math to make it look beautiful and magical. Thank you.